Drum roll, please. It is our first, yes, first live workshop of 2023, and the first and possibly only live digital workshop we'll be doing this year with investing expert Amanda Holden, and it's happening on June 13th. Join Amanda for Investing in 2023, a brand new one-night-only workshop to help you navigate the chaos that is wealth building in 2023. She'll break down everything you need to understand about investing at any income level. Amanda has taught over 10,000 members of the TFD community how to invest. There is no finance teacher more qualified or more entertaining than Amanda. For anyone who has been wanting to learn how to invest but hesitating to dive in, especially in such a chaotic time, this is the workshop for you. Tickets are normally $15, but use the link in this episode description to get an exclusive discount. In unpredictable times, it's helpful to think long-term about your money, and this workshop will teach you how to do just that. Can't make it live? No worries. A replay will be sent to all ticket holders following the event, but you must reserve your spot ahead of time in order to get access. Join Amanda on June 13th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be there. Will you?
Hi, my name is Hannah. I am 28 years old and I live in Brooklyn. I make between $60,000 and $65,000 a year. I have a salary of $50,000 as a marketing assistant for an orchestra here in the city, and the rest comes from freelancing, teaching music lessons, performing, and my YouTube channel. I live in Brooklyn with my partner Ross, who is also here.
I'm Ross. I'm a freelance audio engineer. I make about $45,000, give or take, depending on the year, and I am 32. Where do you live? How much do you pay in rent or mortgage? Is it average or high for the area?
We live in downtown Brooklyn in New York City, and we pay $3,100 for a one-bedroom apartment, which I feel like it's probably a little under average for the area right now. We got in during the pandemic, and our apartment's rent stabilized. So probably a little under
too
average.
Much, yeah.
How did we first meet?
We met in college. We were both in the music program at Virginia Tech, and we basically hung out for a year or two and then started dating, and I've just kind of followed her around ever since. Do you have any savings/investments? What is your best savings strategy?
Yeah, I have a Roth IRA and a 403b, which probably has combined about $8,000 in each of them. I also have a little bit in individual stocks. My best saving strategy is probably just keeping really diligent track of how much I'm earning and how much I'm spending. I keep a spreadsheet with all of that information on it, and that keeps me in check.
I also have a Roth IRA and very minor savings. As a freelancer, COVID definitely kind of hit me hard, so a lot of what I had saved has gotten wiped out. Basically, I think that what's best for me for saving money is making food at home. I think that helps save a ton of money. Like all the people I work with are going out all the time, and I just feel like for me that does not work.
Yeah, can I change mine? Cohabitating with somebody who likes to cook and is a really good cook is my best saving strategy. Do you have any debt?
I do not have debt. I do have a credit card that I pay down every month, but I was lucky enough to get out of college without any debt. So yeah, super fortunate for that.
I do have student loan debt. I didn't acquire any debt in undergrad, but then I went to graduate school and acquired student loans there. I don't have any credit card debt though.
What has been your biggest financial mistake?
Graduate school. No, actually from a financial perspective, it probably is graduate school, but I don't actually regret going to school at all. I think I learned a lot there, and it was very valuable for me. I went to grad school for music, and I became a much more confident performer and got a lot more education on the business of it as well while I was there. So although financially I don't know that it was a great decision, Personally, it really was for me, so I don't regret that at all.
I think my biggest financial mistake was not saving more when I was younger. In high school, my friends had a job and I didn't. I was just kind of enjoying high school. And then in college, I didn't have debt. I wasn't taking out any student loans that I couldn't pay for. So I was just kind of like, oh, all my friends are just like using their money to pay that back. So I can just kind of use mine to go do whatever. And I didn't really save at all. And it would have been nice to start saving younger.
How do we share expenses?
We split the rent. We split bills. We split groceries for the most part. There's some things where, one of us will get something that's more expensive and just be like, whatever. Like, we don't really nitpick on the little things too bad.
That's not very healthy. Yeah, pretty much everything is split 50-50 down the middle with dates and recreational things. We usually take turns paying, but everything else we just keep track of and split.
What's the biggest financial secret of your industry?
Okay, so for my industry, I'll just say music and the arts in general, whether you're a performer or you're in administration or you're teaching, whatever it may be. I feel like for kids and younger people, our parents will often encourage us to avoid the arts because you can't make money, right? But I feel like there's actually a lot of money in the arts sometimes. You just have to be a little more creative about it, and it might not come about as easily as if, you're an engineer straight out of college and it's more of a straight path. I wouldn't necessarily advise someone go into the arts planning on being a full-time performer, but if you're open to options or combining things, you could be a teacher and a performer, or you can work in administration, or you can do what I'm doing and do a combination of all three. There's definitely space for everybody and money to be made within the arts.
The biggest financial secret of my industry is probably that it's really about who you know for getting jobs. Basically, all of the jobs I've gotten have been because I knew somebody that gave me an email address, or even like I interviewed with them for something in the past, but they knew that they liked me and gave me a call like a few months down the road just for a random one-off gig or something. Just make contacts, and hopefully, if you do good work, they'll call you back.
What was your financial upbringing like? How was money talked about growing up?
We were fairly well off. My parents never shied away from talking about money really, but they never, really pushed money talks on me. They always told me that investing was important and to have a savings, and that money didn't grow on trees, which, I think are very important things. But they never sat me down and told me how to do taxes, or what is good to invest in, or what's the best kind of savings account to have, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I think for me, I had a pretty healthy awareness of money. I never really felt like a burden or anything as a child, but I was aware that things cost money. It wasn't just not a conversation. I also had a pretty unique experience of growing up in a very poor area, but my family was pretty middle class. So I think that very early on in my childhood, I saw what it could be like to, be living in poverty, and I had a lot of awareness of that, but I also had some confusion that I didn't necessarily feel that that's what my experience was. I'm very grateful that money was not something that I had to worry about too much, but also, even if my parents, say, would have been able to afford certain things, just being in an area where there wasn't a whole lot of access also felt like a disadvantage. For example, when I was a senior in high school, I started taking private music lessons for the first time, whereas when I got to college, a lot of my peers had had access to that for years and years since they were 10 years old and started playing, and I had to drive 2 hours after school to go study with somebody. So it was just kind of an interesting balance of I never wanted for anything and felt like we had enough money, but I was also in the middle of, just a poverty-stricken area.
What's a big financial goal you are working towards?
I suppose paying off my student loans. I need to pay off my student loans. I also would like to max out my Roth this year. I've never done that before, so that's another goal I have. What about you?
Yeah, the Roth is good, and we're getting married this year, so we're gonna start a joint account, and hopefully we can save up some money to, have some fun, take good trips.
Yeah, we want to travel.
Get some nice furniture,
Nice furniture. That the cat will ruin promptly. What are your long-term career goals?
I guess as far as a career goal goes, I would like to be in the union here for stagehands, the local one. That's basically the people that put on Broadway shows. So I do off-Broadway at the moment, and I would love to get into a little more big-time stuff.
For me, I think long term, I would like to go back to being entirely freelance. Up until about a year ago, I was entirely freelance and then ran into some troubles there and ended up getting a full-time position, which was the right move for me at the time, and I'm still enjoying very much for now. But I think ultimately I would like to go back to freelancing, teaching music lessons. I'd like to be performing more than I am now. The pandemic definitely took a hit there, and I would love to be able to grow my YouTube channel further and make more income from that as well. What is currently your biggest financial burden?
I guess probably our rent is the biggest financial burden. It would be great to pay a little less and be able to put a little more of that towards savings.
I would agree with that. I know I said that it's pretty low for our area, but we also live in a pretty expensive area. So it would be nice maybe to consider somewhere else to move where we could save a little more on rent. And then, of course, also my student loans, but I won't be a broken record about that.
How did we first start talking about money in our relationship?
So when we were moving to New York, I was finishing graduate school and didn't have any plans lined up. We were in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is not exactly a booming market for audio engineers. And I had always wanted to live here. And so we just talked about taking the plunge and doing that. And our plan was pretty haphazard, honestly. I feel like we could have probably planned a little better than we did. But we both just started applying for jobs a couple of months before I finished school. And the plan was, we were also building up a little bit of savings while I was in school. But the plan was just whichever one of us got a job first, we were going to take it. We would both move. The person who got the job first would maybe cover some more of the expenses for a little while. And then that ended up being him. He got a job here first, and we ended up having to move very, very quickly. That was a whole whirlwind, but that's what happened. And then we got here, and I just kind of made it work from there. And here we are almost 5 years later.
Yeah, I think moving here definitely pretty much wiped out any savings I had. I was scraping it pretty hard for the beginning there, but luckily I just kept getting work rolling in, so yeah, it's been nice working here. After COVID has kind of calmed down, it's definitely come back a good bit. I've been consistently working on shows at least 7 months out of the year, I'd say.
Yeah, I think the biggest hit from COVID wasn't even necessarily, at least for me, the time that I wasn't able to work as a musician, but just the time that it happened. You know, it happened right after I finished school, and I was trying to build up this momentum, and then everything was just kind of gone all at once. And then, you just scrape by for a couple years and start doing things that aren't necessarily that, and then it feels a little bit difficult to get back into that.
If one of us couldn't make rent for whatever reason, how would we handle it? I would say that the other would take care of it. I think we're in a pretty good financial place to where we would be able to do that, no problem.
Yeah, I would definitely be willing to cover your rent for a little bit if need be. And then I think, worst case scenario, pull from the Roth IRA, or yeah, we would figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
How did you negotiate your salary / freelance rates?
Well, for me, basically, you go into a job and they tell you like what rate you're gonna make. There's like maybe a little room for negotiation, maybe not so much on the rate, but you can get like a guaranteed 8-hour pay. So like if you only have to work for 6 hours that day, they're still gonna pay you for 8 hours. So you can negotiate in little things like that. A lot of the jobs, even the off-Broadway jobs that aren't union, still do like at least the base union pay rate, so that's nice. And then every now and again you can get on something that offers a little bit more.
So I did not negotiate my salary, which is not good. I should have negotiated my salary. Please negotiate your salaries. For gigs, as a performer, usually the rate is set and there's not a whole lot of room for that. But for teaching private music lessons, that's totally up to me. And I just ask around, ask friends in the area what they're charging, look online at what people are charging, and then decide what I think I'm worth and put the rate out there. And I really haven't had too much pushback from students or their parents about my rates. How are you financially preparing for marriage?
Well, we're talking about our finances more and how we're gonna start combining them. As far as a joint account goes, so we're gonna both start contributing to that, as well as keep our separate accounts. But yeah, we're basically just trying to both put money in an account together and make it grow.
Yeah, I think just communication really, and making sure that we're both on the same page about money, and if there's something we're not on the same page about, just talking it through and working it out.
How do you find freelance clients / gigs?
So for me, I have a website, and I put myself on other platforms online for teaching music lessons. There are a lot of those where they'll list you and then they take a cut if you get students through there. I don't do that so much anymore, but I did in the beginning. And then from there, a lot of it has been word of mouth. So I teach a lot very close to where we live, and then parents will talk to other parents that their kids go to school with, and more students will roll in that way. So I really think the most effective way has been word of mouth, but also just making sure that I have an easily searchable online presence as well.
Yeah, for me it was really just asking people when I was moving to New York if they knew anyone here, and my old boss in college was like, oh yeah, let me give you someone's email, and I ended up working a gig there, and that's actually one of the union gigs that I work regularly, and that's been great. And then I met someone on that gig who was also a freelancer, who was like, hey, I work at this other place, you want to come work there? So I was like, yeah, great. And then, yeah, just meeting more people like that, and they all freelance, they all work a ton of different places, and everyone has crazy schedules and has to cancel, and they need someone last minute. So yeah, just word of mouth, definitely.
How do you handle feelings of professional envy?
I don't mind that you make more money than me, so, you know. When I see other people in my industry working on cool shows and making a ton of money, I'm like, wow, I really want to do that. So it just kind of pushes me to, go for it and work really hard so that I can do that.
Yeah, I think that's something that I probably struggle with more than you do. I mean, not pertaining to you, I don't feel professional envy against you, but with other people who are doing the same things that I'm doing. I feel like I waited a little longer than I should have to get a full-time job when I was struggling freelancing, because I just felt like that was a failure. And when I would see friends of mine who were either getting full-time performance jobs, which is, that is the goal when you're a music student in school, is like you want to be a full-time performer, or even just friends that I would see performing more than me. They had more students than me, or even, on the other hand, when I did get into my full-time job, seeing people who had been doing that longer and were in a higher level position than me, and just I compare myself a lot to people. Like, that's something I definitely need to work on. But I feel like, as far as I haven't described how I've handled it. I'm saying I don't handle it. But I think, I don't know, I think I'm getting better about that. And I think I'm, I feel good about the path that I'm on right now. And I think I'm kind of where I need to be. And so when I start feeling like that, just reminding myself that I'm doing what's best for me and I am not the people around me, and that we all have different things that are best for us individually, helps with that a lot.
What are your biggest workplace struggles in your industry?
I think for me, I guess this isn't necessarily industry specific, but it's that I do so many things. So I have my full-time job, and I'm teaching, and I'm performing, and I'm creating content, and I'm trying to balance all of these things. And I find it a little difficult sometimes to kind of mentally shift between, a long day at the office, and then suddenly I'm going to someone's home and teaching an 8-year-old how to play music, and it's just such a different headspace. And just being able to balance that and shift between everything, as well as just keeping organized and keeping track of everything and making sure I have time for everything.
I think for me specifically would probably be some of the crazy hours during when you're teching a show. Sometimes you're working from 9 in the morning to 9 or 10 in the evening, so pretty long days. We get one day off a week on Mondays, and then we work in that schedule 6 days for 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. So that's very draining. But then on the other hand, once we get into the show, you just work, a few hours in the evening. So that's kind of nice to have, the daytime off time during a show run.
But then you're also working when everybody else is off too, which can make it hard for you to schedule time to do fun things.
Yeah, that's true.
If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self any piece of advice, what would it be?
Invest. Or save or something. Don't just spend the money and have nothing.
I think for me, it would be to just calm down and chill out a little bit. I've always been so pressed and worried about the future, and I kind of just wish I would have had a little bit more fun when I was younger, which I feel like is kind of the opposite of what a lot of people would say. It's a little bit the opposite of what you just said, but yeah, I was just always very stressed and worried, and to this point everything has worked out okay. So there was probably no need for me to worry so much.
You catch the A train home?
I thought we were going to take the Q. All right, well, I'll take the Q, you take the A, and I'll see you later.
See you there.